What up, YouTube? Jordan here, and in this video I'm going to rant. One of my favorite things to do. And what I'm going to rant about in this video is a controversy that's been going on lately, but I'm going to make some very important points about it doing so. And that controversy is about a movie coming out called First Man. It stars Ryan Gosling, and it is about the Apollo mission in 1969 that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin went to the moon on. And what's causing the controversy is that in this movie, the particular scene of Neil getting out of the space capsule and planting that flag on the moon, it's not an American flag. You see, that's what's pissing a lot of people off. The fact that it wasn't an American flag that they showed in the movie being planted. And because it was not an American flag, that caused a lot of people to get very triggered, very pissed off, and they're saying, oh, they're trying to revise history, oh, it's anti-American, blah, 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 it's a shame they're doing this. Okay, let's talk about this objectively, rationally, and logically, okay? I am all for patriotism. Now, mind you, this is actually a much different belief system than I held 6 or 7 years ago. Now, I am all for patriotism. I'm all for being proud of where you come from, of the environment that made you. I'm all for being proud of this country. It's a fantastic country. I love America. I love traveling around it and seeing how diverse and beautiful it really is. I'm all for being proud of the environment around you. For me, that's the Pacific Northwest. It's a beautiful area here, right? So I'm all for pride of your environment and where you come from, but what I am not for is blind patriotism. I am not for getting caught up with a flag or a song or a whatever the case is, insert symbol here, and having that spur an emotional reaction in you that's shutting down the logical thinking centers of your brain. And this might trigger some people out there, but that's exactly what's going on with this movie and this no American flag on the moon scenario, okay? Because, plot twist, Neil and Buzz were not the first ones on the moon. Sorry to say. That whole situation was just a giant smokescreen, a big distraction, okay? So you got to understand that what the powers in control, the powers that should not be, are doing is that they're using a symbol of patriotism, and they are literally brainwashing, they're controlling the minds of the masses, trying to funnel them into a particular narrative with that symbol being the American flag, right? So, okay. You might have totally gotten lost when I just said Neil and Buzz weren't the first people on the moon. So let me back up and give you some greater perspective here. When it comes to space, there is a shitload that we are not told about space, and a whole lot of stuff that the military-industrial complex does and has in regards to space. Now, I'm not talking about that flat earth bullshit or the fake moon landing stuff. No. Those are distractions to muddy the waters. What I'm talking about here is what really goes on in the black projects and what the military-industrial complex really does in these secret space programs, okay? First of all, let's talk about technology, space travel technology, to be clear. And I'm not talking here about rockets and space shuttles and shit like that. What I'm talking about here is the hidden technology, anti-gravity, for lack of a better term, electrogravitics, if you will. The ability to literally just use electricity and make a giant saucer or a triangle or a long cigar-shaped spacecraft, UFO, use electricity and make that shit travel, and travel fast, okay? This technology has been in the hands of various groups, the military-industrial complex, the deep state, call it what you want. It's been in their hands since at least the 1950s. Point being here, well before Apollo even existed. 1950s, we could possibly even say the 1940s, and as far back as the 30s if you want to take in the Germans, what they were doing, into account. So, point being, wow, space travel, anti-gravity, very, very fast space travel technology has existed for a long time, well before Apollo. And now, of course, just simply using logic, rational thinking, well, if the deep state had their hands on this technology since the 1950s at least, why wouldn't they use it? Why wouldn't they go out and explore the moon? And if they can get to the moon in minutes, well, shit, why wouldn't they go and explore Mars? Or even beyond? And yes, since the 1940s and 50s, at least. Okay? That being said, Buzz and Neil weren't the first ones on the moon. So like I mentioned earlier, what the powers in control are trying to do is not use patriotism. They're using blind patriotism. They're using symbols that people are very emotionally tied into. And, of course, the deep state not giving us this background knowledge, they're feeding people into these narratives that they want them to believe. They want them to believe that, yes, Buzz and Neil were the first ones on the moon in 1969. They want people to believe that all the best technology is still fossil fuel related. There's nothing anti-gravity. There's nothing in these secret space black projects that, they built out with trillions and trillions of dollars with. No. They want people to believe that Buzz and Neil were the first ones on the moon in 1969. You see? Blind patriotism. It's a very dangerous thing. It's a very dangerous thing if you don't have the greater perspective to see past the misinformation and the waters they're trying to muddy. Now, not only that, has the deep state had access to this technology for a long time, and I can rattle off a bunch of scientists and a bunch of, I'm not trying to overload you with evidence here. I'm just trying to make a point. Yeah, okay, they've had this technology for a long time. Not only that, but if we look into insider testimony, whistleblower evidence, not just the historical evidence and corroborating all that together, but if we actually look at the testimony itself, there have been people that have come forward that said that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin didn't even plant an American flag at first when they stepped out of the rover. I think William Tompkins was one of the insiders that mentioned this, but in fact, they planted a Freemason flag. That was the first flag that they planted on the moon when they got out. Totally makes sense, too. I mean, of course, Neil Armstrong isn't alive today to attest to this, but we have Buzz Aldrin with how much, rings and weird stuff does he wear, how many photos is he doing that, and how much, propaganda, how much agenda-driven narrative does he often discuss? He's got his shirt on that says, "Let's get our asses to Mars." Well, again, with what the military-industrial complex actually has access to, trillions of dollars and these kinds of technologies, hell yeah, they've probably been to Mars since, I wouldn't put it past any kind of, crazy idea to think that the secret space programs got to Mars before the public space programs, the smokescreen that is Apollo, got to the moon in the 60s, right? I mean, it totally makes sense that they would. If they could, they would. Just think of it that way. So, circling this back around to finish up here, again, guys, I'm all for patriotism. I love this country. I love, if you want to appreciate the symbol that is the American flag, by all means, go and do it, right? But be very careful to get attached to these things, because attachments mean emotional drive to doing so. Emotional attachments mean that typically those logical centers of your brain are going to get shut off because you don't want to get proven wrong, you don't want to get your reality shattered, you don't want to have your belief system checked. It's your ego, right? Your ego is tied in to these attachments, to these symbols. Be very careful, because that shuts down the logical thinking centers of your brain. This movie is bullshit. This movie is bullshit, right? And the emotional fervor going on about this movie is bullshit. We were on the moon far before that. They're trying to bring this movie out now. Just look at the timing of it. Wow. All this information blowing up. People are looking into these secret space programs. Wow, we need something to really hound the official narrative home. What better to do that than create this bullshit movie First Man and, do some scene without the American flag in it. Then both sides of the aisle are going to get catalyzed, driven right into that deep state powers that be narrative. Now you're seeing it. There you go, guys. That's all I have for this one. Talk to you soon.